My ex lied that I was abusive to win custody, so I collected proof, exposed her in court, and watched her lose everything she tried to steal. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and all I ever wanted was to be a good father to my daughter. That's the one thing in my life I never questioned, not once. Even on the worst days, when work drained every ounce of energy from me. The moment I saw her tiny arms reach out for me, everything made sense again. I built my entire schedule around her. School drop-offs before heading to my shift, picking her up with a juice box waiting in the car, helping her with homework while dinner simmered on the stove. Bedtime stories were our ritual, her small voice asking for just one more. And me, pretending to hesitate even though I always gave in. Lily, my ex, used to smile at those moments like she was watching a movie she didn't quite understand. She was charismatic, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately had an audience. But beneath that charm was a person who needed validation like air. Everything she did had to be admired, applauded, or turned into a dramatic story where she was the misunderstood heroine. Even when we were together, she shifted every disagreement into an emotional performance where she ended up crying and I ended up apologizing. Our breakup was mutual on paper, but emotionally, it felt like I was stepping out of a storm. We told people it was for the best, that we'd co-parent peacefully, that we'd stay friends for our daughter's sake. For a while, I believed it. Things were calm. Until Lily started dating her new boyfriend, someone who mistook control for love. He would glare any time I dropped my daughter off, like I was invading territory. That's when Lily's tone changed. Small comments slipped into conversation, coated in sweetness, but sharp underneath. Maybe she should spend more time with me. Kids need stability, she'd say. Or I'm doing more than my share. I need support, financial and emotional. She said it lightly, but something in her eyes told me she wasn't asking. She was preparing, and I felt the first flicker of unease in my chest. The kind that warns you something is coming, something big. I didn't realize it at first, but Lily's entire vibe shifted almost overnight. She went from casually texting me updates about our daughter to writing these strangely formal messages that sounded like they were meant to be read by someone else. Instead of, "Can you grab her jacket?" she forgot it. She'd write, "Please be advised that her jacket was not returned during the last exchange." I stared at my phone, wondering when co-parenting turned into customer service. Inside, I felt this quiet pressure building like the air before a storm. My instincts kept whispering that something wasn't right. Every time I tried to talk to her in person, she'd stiffen, tilt her head, and speak in this slow, rehearsed tone. One afternoon, when I went to drop off our daughter, Lily stepped outside with her arms crossed, her voice dripping with concern. I've noticed she gets tense before going with you," she said. I blinked. "What?" "She literally ran to me at pickup today." Lily sighed dramatically, glancing back toward the house as if imagining an audience. Kids don't always show their discomfort. She told me she feels overwhelmed sometimes. I felt my stomach twist. Not because I believed her, but because Lily said it so so confidently that it felt like she'd been practicing. Later that week, she asked me to talk numbers again. "I'm doing more than my share," she insisted, leaning against the doorway with her arms folded tightly. "I need more support. It's not fair otherwise." I reminded her I already covered school supplies, clothes, medical bills, plus my regular child support. But she brushed it off with a condescending smile. "Well, maybe we should reevaluate things legally, just to make sure everything is fair." The way she said legally made my skin crawl. It felt like she wasn't having a conversation. She was laying groundwork. And even though I couldn't prove anything yet, every part of me sensed Lily wasn't just drifting toward conflict. She was building a case, and I had no idea what she was preparing to accuse me of next. The moment everything shifted happened on a Saturday morning, one of those mornings where I was actually excited because I hadn't seen my daughter in 3 days. I drove over with her favorite cereal, her stuffed rabbit she always forgot, and this stupid grin on my face because I knew she'd run into my arms. The second the door opened, but the door didn't open. I knocked again, then again, Finally, Lily's voice came from behind the wood, cold, flat, unfamiliar. "You need to leave." I frowned. "What, Lily? I'm here for pickup." "It's my day." Silence. Then a muffled sniff like she was trying to cry on cue. "I'm not letting you near her," she said. "Not after what you did." My heart stopped. "What are you talking about?" "Lily, open the door." She didn't. Instead, my phone buzzed. A long message lit up the screen, this dramatic, paragraph-long accusation where she claimed I'd been emotionally abusive for months. That I yelled. That I intimidated her. That our daughter was afraid of me. I stood there on her porch reading it, my hands shaking. The accusations were so specific, it was like she was describing a completely different person. A fictional version of me that never existed. "What is this?" I asked through the door. My voice cracked, partly from panic, partly from heartbreak. "Lily, this is insane. She loves being with me. You know that." She snapped back. "Don't raise your voice. I'm documenting everything." That line, "I'm documenting everything," felt like a punch to the chest. It wasn't just a lie anymore. It was a setup. Then another buzz. An email this time, from her lawyer. Subject line, "Request for temporary restraining order." I staggered back from the door, adrenaline roaring in my ears. I'd never even raised my voice at her, let alone done anything abusive. But here she was, rewriting our entire history with a few sentences. And all I could think was, if she's lying about this, what else is she willing to invent? A cold dread settled in my stomach, because I knew this was only the beginning. The following days felt like I was trapped inside someone else's life, someone living a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My lawyer, Mark, sat across from me in his office with this heavy, grim expression. Like he'd already seen how cases like mine usually end. I kept replaying everything Lily accused me of, hearing her words echo in the back of my mind. Abusive, unsafe, intimidating. None of it was true. But the fact that she wrote it with such certainty made me question whether the truth even mattered right now. Mark flipped through the stack of papers. Lily's lawyer had delivered texts taken out of context, exaggerated anecdotes, twisted versions of harmless moments. "She's building a narrative," he said quietly. "And she started documenting long before she sent these." I felt something snap inside me, but I didn't do anything. I've never laid a hand on her. I've never even yelled. He nodded. "I know, and the people who know you know. But the court system isn't built on character references. It's built on evidence. And right now, she has more paper than you do." The words hit harder than I expected. Evidence, paper, documentation. Lily had been preparing for weeks, maybe months, while I'd been busy being a father. I never thought to protect myself because I didn't think love or co-parenting or basic decency required. Self-defense. To make it worse, the temporary restraining order restricted me from seeing my daughter until the hearing. The moment Mark said that out loud, it felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I gripped the arms of my chair so tightly my knuckles ached. "I can't." "She needs me," I muttered, barely able to get the words out. "She's going to think I abandoned her." Mark lowered his voice. "Then we fight. But I need something to work with. Anything. Messages. Witnesses. Inconsistencies. We need to build your side of the narrative." I sat there numb, realizing I had nothing. No recordings. No proof. Just memories and good intentions. And for the first time, I understood how people lose everything, even when they're innocent, Quiet dread settled over me. If Lily was willing to lie once, how far was she willing to go? I spent the next few days drowning in fear, replaying every moment with Lily, trying to find the exact second things went wrong. I felt powerless, cut off from my daughter, portrayed as a monster, and blindsided by accusations I never saw coming. I kept thinking, how do you defend yourself against something that never happened? That question became this heavy weight in my chest, one that made even breathing feel like work. Then out of nowhere, the midpoint twist hit hard. A mutual friend, Jenna, called me late one evening. I almost ignored the call, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Her voice was shaky. "I shouldn't even be telling you this," she whispered. "But Lily's been talking." A lot. My grip tightened on the phone. Talking about what? "She told us weeks ago that she was going to file for full custody. She said she had a plan to make sure the judge believed her. She even joked that you'd never see it coming." I froze. Weeks. She'd planned this for weeks. "Jenna, why didn't you say something?" Her voice was shaky. "I shouldn't even be telling you this," she whispered. "But Lily's been talking." A lot. My grip tightened on the phone. Talking about what? "She told us weeks ago that she was going to file for full custody. She said she had a plan to make sure the judge believed her. She even joked that you'd never see it coming." I froze. Weeks. She'd planned this for weeks. "Jenna, why didn't you say something?" Suddenly it clicked. This wasn't a desperate reaction. This wasn't miscommunication. This was a pattern, a script Lily had perfected and performed before. When I told Mark, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled. "If that's true," he said, "we're not just dealing with a custody dispute. We're dealing with someone who knows how to manipulate the system." It was like someone lit a flame inside me. Fear didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It sharpened into something focused, something ready. "We build a case," Mark said. "Quietly, carefully, and we don't let her know we're on to her." For the first time since this started, I felt the faintest spark of control return. But deep down, I knew if Lily had used this playbook before, she wouldn't hesitate to escalate it now. And that thought terrified me more than anything. Once, Mark told me we needed evidence, real, solid, undeniable evidence. Something inside me shifted. I stopped walking around like a man waiting to be crushed and started acting like someone fighting for his kid. Every instinct I had screamed that Lily was watching me, waiting for me to slip, to react, to give her another incident she could twist into her narrative. So I did the opposite. I went silent, strategic, careful. I started by documenting everything. Every text Lily sent, every missed call, every odd comment she made, I screenshotted and saved it all. And the more I collected, the more cracks I noticed. One night, she texted me, "You've been yelling at me for weeks. I can't handle it anymore." 10 minutes later, she wrote, "Can you bring her favorite blanket on Tuesday? You always remember the little things." I stared at the contradiction, feeling a spark of hope. I forwarded the messages to Mark. He replied, "Good. Keep going." I also installed security cameras around my house, not because I expected trouble there, but because Mark warned, if she escalates, she might claim you showed up angry or caused a scene. The idea made my skin crawl, but I did it anyway. Then came the unexpected win. I stopped by my daughter's school to drop off some forms. Her teacher pulled me aside gently. "She talks about you a lot," she said with a small smile. "Always excited for your days together." My heartbeat stumbled. She doesn't seem scared or uncomfortable." The teacher frowned. "Scared? Not at all." "Who told you that?" Her reaction told me everything. Lily's claims weren't just lies. They were easily disproven lies. And then came the moment that made my stomach drop. My neighbor, Mrs. Patel, sent me a video she'd taken because she thought it seemed off. The clip showed Lily in her front yard, screaming at her boyfriend, wild, chaotic, unhinged, while my daughter stood nearby covering her ears. My jaw clenched as I watched it, rage and sickening fear battling in my chest. Mark's response was immediate. "This is big. Save that. Back it up. Don't let her know you have it." For the first time, I felt like we were building something slowly, quietly, piece by piece. But I also knew, the stronger our case became, the more desperate Lily would get. And desperate people are dangerous. I thought things were finally shifting my way. I thought gathering evidence, staying calm, and keeping my distance would give me some sense of control. But I was wrong. Lily wasn't slowing down. She was escalating. And she hit me with the worst blow on a random Tuesday afternoon, right when I'd begun to believe I might actually win this. It started with an email from Mark. The subject line alone made my chest tighten. "We need to talk. Urgent." When I called him, his voice was tense. "She filed for full custody," he said. "And she added new claims, serious ones." My grip tightened on the phone. "What claims?" There was a beat of silence. Then he said the words that made my knees nearly buckle. "She's accusing you of physical abuse now." I felt the world tilt. "Physical, Mark? I've never—" "I know," he said quickly. "I know you haven't. But she's submitted photos." "Photos of what?" I whispered. "Bruises," he said. "On her arms?" "She claims you grabbed her. Forced her against a wall." My stomach churned like acid. I actually had to sit down because the room blurred. Lily, the woman I once held while she cried, the mother of my child, was fabricating injuries, presenting them to a court as if I'd caused them. She's saying, "Your daughter witnessed it," Mark added quietly. That was the moment I broke, because it wasn't just about hurting me. Anymore, it was about twisting the one relationship I sacredly protected. My daughter. The person who trusted me more than anyone. The idea that Lily dared to put those lies in her mouth. I felt myself crumble. That night I sat alone in my dark living room, staring at the toys scattered across the carpet, the small plastic dinosaurs we used to line up, the coloring book still open to the half-finished rainbow she made. It felt like grief, like losing someone who was still alive. I whispered into the silence. "She thinks I'm going to lose." And a part of me wondered if she was right. But then, just when I thought nothing else could happen, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Lily. Her voice, cold and venomous, said, "You're done. I'm going to make sure the court takes her away from you." As I replayed those words, something inside me shifted. Not hope, not strength, something sharper. And I knew this fight wasn't over. Not even close. But I had no idea what was about to happen next. The next morning, walked into Mark's office, feeling hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but fear. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those imaginary bruises Lily claimed I caused. I kept hearing her venomous voicemail, "You're done." It looped in my mind like a curse. Mark gestured for me to sit. "Before we talk strategy, I need to show you something." He turned his monitor toward me, and my heart stalled. "Her evidence," he said. I had it analyzed. On the screen were the photos Lily submitted, bruises on her arm. Ugly, dark, intentional looking. But beside them were data logs. Tiny lines of text I barely understood. Mark pointed to one line. "See that timestamp?" said. "It shows when the photo was edited." "Edited?" I repeated, barely breathing. He nodded. "The image was manipulated, filtered, altered. The metadata proves it." My pulse hammered in my ears. "So, she faked them. Either staged or digitally altered," he replied. "But she definitely tampered with the images." I felt something loosen inside, me like a knot pulling apart. For the first time in weeks, the truth wasn't just something I knew. It was something I could prove, but Mark wasn't done. "There's more," he said, clicking to another file. One of the screenshots she submitted. "The text formatting is inconsistent. She edited the messages before exporting them." He zoomed in on a pixelated edge, a clear sign of tampering. "It's sloppy." She rushed. I let out a shaky breath, part relief, part disbelief. Why would she do this? Why go this far? "Because she thought you wouldn't fight back," Mark said quietly. Then came the twist I didn't expect. "Her lawyer sent us her full packet by mistake," he explained. "And in one of the files she included, probably accidentally as a screen recording, the editing menu flashes for half a second." I stared at him. "She recorded herself faking evidence." Mark nodded. "She incriminated herself." It felt surreal, like watching a villain in a movie finally slip. But before I could absorb it, my phone buzzed. A new voicemail from Lily. And the subject line read, "Final warning. Timing was too perfect." Which meant she still thought she was winning and she had no idea what we now had in our hands. I didn't listen to Lily's voicemail right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly. adrenaline spiking through me like electricity. I stared at the phone, at her name lighting up the screen. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than fear. I felt certainty, because now, finally I had the truth on my side. Mark was already moving into the next steps. "We're requesting a forensic review of all digital evidence," he said, gathering documents with a calmness I desperately needed. If she tampered with photos, she may have tampered with other materials too. And if we catch her once, the court will question everything else she submitted.
Yeah, that's right.
And the investigation escalated faster than even I expected. A week later, Mark called me in again. When I walked into his office, he actually looked energized. "They found something," he said. My heart jolted. "What?" He opened a report. "She deleted messages. A lot of them." "What kind of messages?" "The kind where she admitted to lying." He tapped the page. "She told a friend she was working on the perfect victim narrative, that she just needed the right bruises to make it believable." I felt my jaw clench. Ugly heat crawled up my neck. She'd said those words casually to someone she trusted, never imagining they'd resurface, but it got worse. Child Services interviewed my daughter as part of the investigation. I wasn't present, but the report, it shattered me. My daughter had told the social worker in her small, innocent voice, "Mommy told me to say Daddy scares me. But Daddy doesn't scare me. Daddy makes pancakes." My eyes burned when I read that line. The thought of Lily dragging our daughter into her lies, manipulating her tiny mind, it made something inside me harden in a way it never had before. This wasn't just a custody battle anymore. It was abuse. Then came the final blow too. Lily's credibility. Her boyfriend refused to testify for her. Apparently, he told investigators he wasn't going to get involved in lies. Mark leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "She's collapsing," he said, piece by piece. But he wasn't celebrating. If anything, he looked more serious than ever. "She's cornered now," he warned. "And people who feel like they're losing, they get unpredictable." I nodded slowly, feeling a chill run through me, because tomorrow was the court hearing, and Lily had no idea the truth was about to blow her entire world apart. The morning of the hearing felt unreal. I barely slept, barely breathed. I stood outside the courthouse staring at the double doors, feeling like the world on the other side could either give me my daughter back or take her from me forever. Mark rested a hand on my shoulder and said quietly, "Stay calm. Let the evidence speak." Inside the courtroom, Lily was already seated at the petitioner's table, perfectly composed, makeup flawless, hair curled like she was filming a documentary about her own suffering. When she saw me, she didn't look afraid. She looked smug, confident, like she still believed she owned the narrative. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering to her, and she nodded with this exaggerated sadness. Like a professional victim rehearsing for an audience, the judge entered, and Lily immediately launched into her performance. Her voice quivered as she described the months of emotional torment, the fear she felt daily, and the brutal incident where I supposedly grabbed her arms and shoved her against a wall. She even dabbed her eyes with a tissue, no tears, just theatrics. I felt sick just listening. Then her lawyer handed the judge the evidence, pictures of bruises, screenshots of messages, a detailed timeline she had written like a script. The judge's face was unreadable. My turn came. Mark stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to introduce additional evidence for review." He started with the metadata analysis, cold, technical, indisputable. The judge leaned forward as Mark explained how the bruising photos had been edited, pointing to the exact timestamps showing alterations. When he displayed the brief screen recording where Lily's editing menu flashed for half a second, the courtroom went silent. Lily's eyes widened, just a flicker, but it was enough. Next came the deleted messages, covered by the forensic team, including the one where Lily told her friend she was building the perfect victim story. The judge's eyebrows shot up. Then the social worker's report was read aloud, the part where my daughter said, "Daddy makes pancakes. Daddy doesn't scare me." Lily shifted violently in her seat. Her knee bounced. Her breathing grew uneven. But the real crack happened when Mark said, "Your Honor, we also have a video submitted by the neighbor." It showed Lily screaming at her boyfriend while my daughter covered her ears and cried, The judge closed the file slowly, exhaled, and said, "We need a recess. A long one." As we stood, I glanced at Lily. Her confidence was gone. Her mask was slipping, and for the first time, she looked afraid. When the judge returned after the recess, the entire courtroom felt different. The tension was sharp enough to taste like cold metal on the back of my tongue. Lily sat rigid beside her lawyer, her hands trembling on the table, her eyes darting everywhere except toward me. The mask she'd worn for Monscombe, wounded, composed, was gone. Now she looked cornered, exposed. The judge cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses as he glanced down at the stack of files in front of him. "Ms. Harris," he said, addressing Lily, "the evidence submitted in your petition shows significant inconsistencies." His voice was stern, controlled, absolute. "Appears that several of your claims were not only exaggerated but intentionally fabricated." Lily shot up from her seat. "That's not true," she cried, voice cracking. "He's manipulating the system." "He's dangerous, sit down," the judge snapped, louder than I'd ever heard him speak. The courtroom went dead silent. Her lawyer tugged on her arm, whispering urgently, but she shook him off. Tears streaming, now real ones this time, not staged, the judge continued. "Submitting doctored evidence is a severe offense. So is attempting to weaponize your child during a custody dispute?" My chest tightened. Hearing someone finally say it out loud, what she'd done, what she'd used, felt like someone lifting a boulder off my lungs. Effective immediately. The judge said the temporary order is dissolved. Primary custody will be awarded to the father. He paused, letting the words settle. "Ms. Harris, you will be granted supervised visitation only. Pending completion of parenting courses, psychological evaluation, and a separate investigation into potential parental alienation." Lily's knees buckled. She sank into her chair, gasping like the air had been punched out of her. Her lawyer rubbed his forehead, defeated. Meanwhile, my hands shook not from fear, but from overwhelming relief. I looked at Mark, who gave a subtle nod, not celebrating, just acknowledging that justice had been served. As I walked past Lily on the way out, she whispered, "You ruined me." I stopped, looked at Horelli, looked tanned, said quietly, "No, you did that yourself, outside the courthouse." Sunlight hit my face. Warm, real. My daughter ran toward me from the waiting area, her little arms flung wide. "Daddy." I lifted her up, holding her tighter than I ever had. For the first time since this nightmare began, she was safe, but deep down, I knew the story wasn't over yet, because consequences were just beginning, and Lily still had to face every single one. When I got home with my daughter that evening, everything felt strangely quiet, like the world had finally stopped spinning out of control. She clung to me while I unlocked the door, her little fingers gripping the fabric of my shirt, like she was afraid I'd disappear again. I knelt down so we were eye level and whispered, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She nodded, her eyes soft and trusting, and for the first time in months, I believed those words myself. The next few days felt like relearning how to breathe. Every morning, I'd make her breakfast pancakes. "Of course, Anne." She'd sit on the counter swinging her legs, humming to herself. Those small, ordinary moments used to feel routine. Now they felt like miracles I wasn't sure I deserved. The heavy fog that had lived inside my chest finally began to lift, replaced piece by piece with something steadier. Something like hope. But healing wasn't instant. Some nights I'd lie awake replaying Lily's lies, her fabricated bruises, her calm cruelty. I'd wonder how I ever loved someone capable of tearing me apart so deliberately. There was anger, grief, disbelief, but beneath it all, there was a strange sense of clarity. Lily hadn't destroyed me. She'd exposed herself. And the court had finally seen who she really was. One afternoon, during our first supervised visit, Lily tried to meet my eyes through the glass. Her expression was a mix of regret, anger, and something else, fear, maybe. She mouthed the word "please." I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. She'd made her choices, and for once, she had to live with them. Later that night, after I tucked my daughter into bed, she whispered, Daddy, are we safe now? I swallowed the lump in my throat and brushed her hair back. Yeah, sweetheart. We're safe. I promise. As I turned off the light and watched her drift to sleep, something settled deep inside me. A realization I'd fought my way toward without even knowing it. Lily tried to rewrite the truth. She tried to take my daughter, my reputation, my future. But in the end, the truth saved us. And I finally had my life back. Even better, I had her.